morning and welcome to the September 15th Victim Compensation Board meeting. For those of you that are in the room that are appearing on a specific agenda item or wish to offer public comment, the microphones at the podium and the tables are directional and require that you hold them fairly close to your mouth when speaking to ensure your testimony is captured by our audio equipment, as I just demonstrated. For members and participants who are appearing via Zoom, if you cannot hear the presenter, please use the comment feature to note that as staff are monitoring comments in real time. Council, will you please call the roll?
Member Becton.
Present.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Present.
Good morning. Item 1 is the approval of the minutes for the July 21st, 2022 board meeting.
Is there any discussion, additions, or corrections to the minutes from board members?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve item 1?
I move approval of the July 21st, 2022 minutes.
I'd second that.
Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, Council, would you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is approval of the July 21st, 2022 board meeting minutes. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next item is public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. As items discussed during public comment have not been agendized, the board is not permitted to take any action in these matters on these matters at this meeting. Please note, if you wish to offer public comment regarding item 6, the request for authority to conclude the rulemaking process for amendments to the California Code of Regulations or either of the PC 4900 cases, there will be a separate call for a public comment when each item is heard by the board. For those on the phone, if you previously indicated your desire to offer comments during this meeting, we will be calling on you by name or phone number. For those participating via Zoom, please raise your hand if you wish to offer comment, and we will acknowledge you and let you know when it is your turn to speak. I don't see any.
Yeah, it appears we don't have any public comment on non-agendized items, so we can move on to item 3.
Item 3 is the Executive Officer Statement, which will be presented by Executive Officer Linda Gledhill.
Good morning. I'm excited to share with you our annual report, which highlights Cal VCB's important work during the last fiscal year. But first, I want to spend a minute to wrap up the legislative session. You'll hear more about bills from Deputy Executive Officer Lamar. But in addition to the budget changes that I told you about in July, there was another budget item I wanted to make you aware of. Portions of a bill focusing on increasing compensation for crime victims and broadening their eligibility for Cal VCB claims were put into a budget trailer bill and passed by the legislature. AB 160, if signed by the governor, could end up having a significant impact on Cal VCB and the work that we do. But it will take effect on July 1st, 2024, only if there's enough money in the state budget at that time to pay for it. So if the fiscal forecast indicates there's general fund money to pay for the bill's ongoing augmentations and actions, and if an appropriation is made to backfill the restitution fund to support those actions, these items will take effect. They are increasing the limit on the total reimbursement available to crime victims from the current $70,000 to $100,000, an increase on reimbursement limits for relocation and funeral burial expenses, elimination of the limits on mental health counseling expenses, and expanded income and support loss. It would also pay claimants who have been convicted of violent felonies and are on parole or other post-release supervision and relax certain victim cooperation requirements. These, of course, would be a significant change to our program, but because of the delay in implementation and uncertainty as to whether they will actually go into effect, we are going to simply monitor this item for now. So turning to the work that we have accomplished, and included in your binder today is a copy of our just completed annual report for fiscal year 2021-22. I'm impressed and proud of all of the hard work done by our Cal VCB staff and what we were able to accomplish during this year. Overall, well, the number of applications we received and the compensation we paid dropped from the previous year, and that is a cause for concern. We think this could be due to lingering effects of the pandemic. We are hopeful to turn that around, though, because we have stepped up our outreach, and we want to make sure that we can reverse the trend. We've started returning to in-person trainings and outreach. And as you recall, we worked to get $3 million in the state budget to fund a strategic 3-year outreach campaign to target underserved populations, raise awareness about Cal VCB, and connect with victims across California. We certainly hope that this will help us reach more victims and drive up our application numbers. I know that you all know that extra appropriations show up in the state budget. It's not by accident, but by months of work behind the scenes with the governor's office and the legislature. So again, we're happy that this budget includes, increases to reimbursement limits for funeral, burial, and relocation for the first time in 20 years, significant expansion to our trauma recovery centers, and establishing new processes for paying those erroneously convicted claims that the board approves. Also, over the past year, we launched the Forced or Involuntary Sterilization Compensation Program to pay reparations to victims of state-sponsored forced sterilization. That program began on January 1st and is currently scheduled to run for 2 years. To date, we have received 147 applications for this program. Of course, we continue to work on efficiently processing claims, increasing our outreach efforts, expanding networking with stakeholders, and strengthening our organization. We work hard to make sure that our staff is well-trained and engaged in the work that we do. So there's much more in the annual report, which has been posted on our website, along with a supplemental report containing all of our claim statistics. We've already started this fiscal year off strong, and we continue to build on the projects that we have made. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Officer Gledhill. You've certainly accomplished a lot. You and the staff have over the past year, and let's hope that the outreach efforts that were authorized will lead to increased public participation. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Seeing none, we'll move to item 4, which is the legislative update, which will be presented by Deputy Executive Officer Andrew Lamar.
Good morning. I was going to make sure I have this mic right. The legislature has adjourned its session, and in addition to AB 160, there are 2 important bills that could impact Cal VCB that are awaiting the governor's action. The first is SB 877 by Senator Eggman, which would authorize Cal VCB to reimburse out-of-state mental health providers. The bill would take effect January 1st if signed. The second is SB 1468 by Senator Glazer, which would deem any decision by the board to approve compensation for erroneously convicted offenders to be an official finding of factual innocence and provide additional non-monetary relief. The governor has until September 30th to act on the legislation. Finally, AB 13 by Assemblymember Holden, which appropriates nearly $2.5 million from the general fund to pay 3 claims approved by the board at the May hearing, was signed by the governor. These are the final claims that were approved before the board was authorized to make direct payment. Those are the highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Lamar. We'll certainly be watching those final bills very closely. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this item?
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we will move to item 5, which is the contract update, which will be presented by Executive Officer Linda Gledhill.
Good morning. All of the items on the contract report are informational. The contracts with the trauma recovery centers have been updated per the budget that took effect on July 1st and your July board vote. These amendments took each current TRC up to $1.1 million. Also included in this report are the separate TRC contracts to each existing TRC for $120,000 for cash allocations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Executive Officer Gledhill. Are there any discussion or questions or comments from the board on this item?
Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll move to item 6, which is the request for authority to conclude the rulemaking process for amendments to the California Code of Regulations, which will be presented by Cal VCB Senior Attorney Sarah Harburger.
Good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Sarah Harbarger, and I'm a senior attorney at Cal VCB who handles Penal Code Section 4900 claims. On March 17th of 2022, the board approved commencement of the rulemaking process to amend sections 640 through 646 of the California Code of Regulations, which govern Penal Code Section 4900 claims, and also includes the claim form. The regulations were last updated in 2012, and since then, the statutes for processing Penal Code Section 4900 claims have significantly changed. On April 1st of 2022, Cal VCB staff published the proposed regulations on the website for public comment. Multiple comments were received. After considering these suggestions, modifications were made to the proposed regulations, specifically to sections 640A, 640B, 640D, 642A, 642B, and 645G. The modified regulations were reposted on June 2nd, 2022 on the website for public comment. One additional comment was received. The passage of Assembly Bill 200 led to a second round of modifications, which were posted on the website July 20th of 2022 for another round of public comment. No comments were received and no additional proposed changes were made to the proposed regulations. A summary of the comments and the responses, along with a final version of the proposed regulations, are attached to the board materials for this item. Now that the process is complete, it is requested that the board adopt the proposed regulations as modified on July 20th, 2022, along with the claim form revised July 2022, and authorize the executive officer to file the final rulemaking record with the Office of Administrative Law. If approved, the Office of Administrative Law will file the regulations with the Secretary of State. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have about these proposed regulations.
Thank you, Council. I'd just like to confirm that these changes are all for conformity with new statutes.
Yes.
Are there any additional questions or comments from the board?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve item 6?
I'd move to approve item 6.
I second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Seeing none, Council, would you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is adoption of the proposed regulations as modified on July 20th, 2022, and the authorization to the executive officer to file the rulemaking record with the Office of Administrative Law for final approval and enactment. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We'll now move to item 7, which is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Joaquin Syria, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gauthier.
Thank you. On May 9th, 2022, Joaquin Syria filed an application as an erroneously convicted person pursuant to Penal Code Section 4900. That application is based on the 1991 convictions for murder and being a felon in possession of a firearm. These convictions were vacated and dismissed during state habeas proceedings based on new evidence in April of 2022. As there was no objection to this claim filed by the Office of the Attorney General, Compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900B, and accordingly, the proposed my rap career is secondary. Let's try this again. Is that better? The proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $1,636,600, which represents $140 per day for each of the 11,690 days Mr. Syria was wrongfully imprisoned. Throughout these proceedings, Mr. Syria has been represented by Supervising Attorney Paige Canab with the Northern California Innocence Project, and the Office of the Attorney General has been represented by Deputy Attorney General Sharon Loeffner.
Thank you, Counsel. We will hear first from Counsel for Mr. Syria.
Thank you. I'm Linda Starr from the Northern California Innocence Project. Paige Canab is stuck in the line downstairs to get in, as is Mr. Joaquin Syria. We greatly appreciate the attention that the board has given and that the Attorney General's concession here, and Mr. Syria is looking forward to getting on with his life. Thank you.
Thank you. Since Mr. Syria is downstairs, we'll see if we can have a minute to come up in case you'd like to address the board. Yes, so we can hear from Ms. Loeffner from the Attorney General's office.
This is Deputy Attorney General Sharon Loeffner. We have no comment.
Thank you, Counsel. We'll give it a minute or so for Mr. Syria to come up. We can move on to the next item and come back so Mr. Syria can address the board. So we'll move on to item 8, please.
Item 8 is a Penal Code Section 4900.
Sounds like Mr. Syria is just on his way in the room. Mr. Syria, would you like to address the board?
I just want to say to the court, to thank you to give me the opportunity to be right here in front of you guys. I just want to say, that God bless everybody. That's it.
Mr. Syria. Is there a motion or any discussion on this item by the board? Call for a motion on item 7, please.
I'd move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision.
I second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none.
So would you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is the adoption of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Joaquin Syria. Member Silva.
Aye.
Member Becton.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Now we'll move to item 8, which is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Kimberly Long, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gauthier.
On April 21st, 2022, Kimberly Long filed an application with the California Victim Compensation Board pursuant to Penal Code Section 4900. That application was based upon her 2005 conviction for murder. That conviction was vacated and dismissed during state habeas proceedings, and the prosecution declined to proceed with the retrial and moved to dismiss the case in April of 2021. As there was no objection filed by the Office of the Attorney General, compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900B, and the proposed decision accordingly recommends compensation in the amount of $386,400, which represents $140 per day for each of the 2,760 days Ms. Long was wrongfully imprisoned. Ms. Long is represented in these proceedings by Alex Simpson of the Northern California Innocence Project, and the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General Tammy Falkenstein.
Thank you, counsel. We will hear first from counsel for Ms. Long.
Thank you, board members, and good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? I apologize.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Simpson. I am the Associate Director of the California Innocence Project, and I have, our office has represented Ms. Long for more than 10 years through evidentiary hearing and reversal, through the subsequent legal proceedings in the Court of Appeal, in the California Supreme Court, and while she was under threat of retrial. The District Attorney's Office ultimately agreed that Ms. Long's charges should be dismissed, and subsequently, as you can see in the procedural history, she filed her claim before you. These compensation proceedings cannot make whole these victims of the criminal legal system. They cannot bring back the years that they spent in prison while they missed birthdays and holidays, family events and celebrations. They cannot replace the years of loss and homesickness. Ms. Long will never be able to get those years back. But through this compensation process, we recognize that we can do something to alleviate some of that loss, that we should be able to get these individuals back on their feet and able to move on with their lives. And in that way, I think we should focus not necessarily on the years that Ms. Long has lost, although obviously there is a calculation of those years, but we should instead focus on the years that she has left and the years that she has ahead of her. And this compensation will go a long way to those years. I sincerely appreciate your consideration of Ms. Long's claim, and I ask that you adopt the staff recommendation. And I want to make sure Ms. Long also has some comments that she'd like to make. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Ms. Long, would you like to address the board?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. Today I feel heard. Today I feel like I matter to people who don't know me, but who have now seen the injustice that has been bestowed upon me and countless others. We must recognize the agony and the pain that all exonerees suffer here in California. Although compensation will not relieve the trauma of a wrongful conviction, today's findings show that the state of California hopes to put right what has been done wrong. All exonerees deserve to be compensated. Thank you so much for hearing me today. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Ms. Long. We will now hear from Ms. Falkenstein of the Attorney General's Office.
Yeah, the people agree with the recommendation and don't have any further comment.
Thank you, counsel. Is there any discussion on this item by the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion for item 8?
I
I'd
move,
move,
go ahead.
I'd move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Seeing none, counsel, would you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is the adoption of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Kimberly Long. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The board will now convene into closed session, under Government Code Section 11126 C3 to discuss numbers 1 through 225 of the Victim Compensation Program. And board members, please turn off your cameras and audio inputs prior to calling into the conference line, please. board is now reconvening into public session under Government Code Section 11126 sub C3. Do I have a motion for numbers 1 through 225 of the Victim Compensation Program, except numbers 7 and 19?
I move approval of numbers 1 through 225 of the Victim Compensation Program, except for numbers 7 and 19.
I'd second that motion.
Council, will you please call the roll?
Member Becton,
Aye.
Member Silva,
Aye.
Chair Ravel,
Aye.
motion passes.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today? Seeing and hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd so move.
Second.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled to occur on November 17, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.